The city of Xyloth Prime was a kaleidoscope of colors, sounds, and scents that overwhelmed the senses. Towering skyscrapers made of shimmering crystal pierced the clouds, their surfaces reflecting the light of three suns in dazzling patterns. Streets teemed with beings from across the galaxy, humans mingling with aliens whose forms ranged from elegant insectoids to amorphous blobs floating on anti-gravity cushions. Amidst this chaos, Alex Carter trudged through the crowded market district, his worn boots scuffing against the polished stone pavement. Alex was just another face in the crowd, an ordinary human trying to survive in a world where humanity often played second fiddle to more advanced species. His job as a courier barely paid enough to cover rent for his tiny apartment, let alone afford luxuries like fresh food or entertainment. Still, he prided himself on being reliable, delivering packages to even the most remote corners of the sprawling metropolis without complaint. It wasn't glamorous work, but it kept him alive. That evening, after dropping off a package at a docking bay, Alex noticed a blinking icon on his wrist comm device. He tapped it open, expecting yet another automated ad for cheap synthetic meals. Instead, a text message appeared, written in plain but formal English. "You are requested to meet me at the Luxor Spire, Suite 427, at 20 o'clock hours. Compensation will be substantial." There was no name attached, only coordinates leading to one of the most exclusive residential towers in Xyloth Prime. Suspicious but intrigued, Alex hesitated. Strangers didn't usually summon couriers to luxury apartments unless they wanted something unusual or illegal. Yet the promise of substantial compensation lingered tantalizingly in his mind. With bills piling up and little hope of finding better opportunities anytime soon, curiosity won out over caution. At precisely 8 p.m., Alex stood outside Suite 427, shifting nervously from foot to foot. The door slid open before he could knock, revealing a figure so striking that Alex nearly forgot to breathe. Standing before him was Zalora Ven, a member of the luminary species. Her skin glowed softly with hues of blue and green, pulsating gently as though alive. Long, slender limbs moved with fluid grace, and her large, almond-shaped eyes seemed to see straight into his soul. She wore an intricately designed robe that shimmered like liquid silver, accentuating her otherworldly beauty. "Mr. Carter," she said, her voice smooth and melodic, carrying a faint accent. "Please, come in." Stepping inside, Alex found himself in a lavishly decorated living space. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city below, while holographic art pieces floated lazily in midair. Despite the opulence, there was an air of restraint, a sense that Zalora valued elegance over excess. "I understand you must have questions," Zalora began, gesturing for him to sit on a sleek, translucent chair. "Allow me to explain why I've summoned you here." She wasted no time getting to the point. In measured tones, she outlined her proposal. Alex would pretend to be her husband for a period of 1 solar cycle, roughly 3 Earth months. His role would involve attending social events, participating in public appearances, and maintaining the illusion of marital bliss. In return, she promised him credits far beyond what he could earn in years of career work. "Why me?" Alex asked, incredulous. "I'm just a nobody. There are actors, professionals who could do this way better than I ever could." Zalora tilted her head slightly, studying him with those luminous eyes. "Precisely because you are not an actor. Your authenticity is what I require. This arrangement must feel genuine if it is to succeed." Though still skeptical, Alex couldn't deny the appeal of the offer. The credits would solve all his financial woes, and maybe even give him a chance to start fresh somewhere else. But something about Zalora's demeanor hinted at deeper layers beneath her polished exterior. Why would someone as wealthy and powerful as her need a fake spouse? What secrets lay hidden behind her composed facade? As they finalized the details, Alex shook hands with Zalora, sealing the agreement. Little did he know, this decision would pull him into a whirlwind of intrigue, danger, and unexpected connections. For now, however, all he felt was a mix of excitement and unease, a cocktail of emotions that would define the journey ahead. The door slid shut behind him as he left the suite, already wondering whether he'd made the right choice. The next morning, Alex woke up to a notification on his comm device. It was from Zalora, a reminder that their training would begin at noon sharp. He groaned, rubbing his temples as the weight of what he'd agreed to sank in. Pretending to be married to an alien woman wasn't just about smiling for photos or holding hands. It meant diving headfirst into a culture he knew almost nothing about. His knowledge of the luminary was limited to rumors and fleeting encounters in crowded markets. How was he supposed to pull this off? By the time Alex arrived at the Luxor Spire, Zalora was waiting with an assistant, a short, wiry alien named Trelk who had glossy black skin, covered in tiny, reflective scales. Trelk's wide-set eyes blinked rapidly as he assessed Alex, with barely concealed skepticism. "This is your pupil?" Trelk asked, turning to Zalora. "He looks like he might faint if someone offers him tea." Zalora gave a small, amused smile. "Mr. Carter will do fine. He has potential." Trelk huffed, but didn't argue further. Instead, he handed Alex a datapad filled with notes on luminary customs, etiquette, and history. "You'll need to memorize most of this," Trelk said dryly. "And quickly. We don't have much time before the first public appearance." Alex stared at the screen, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of information. There were diagrams explaining proper greetings, a bow accompanied by a specific hand gesture, dietary restrictions, luminary avoided anything containing sulfur compounds, and even guidelines on how to address different social classes without offending anyone. It all felt impossibly complicated. "Don't worry," Zalora reassured him gently. "We'll start with the basics." For the next few hours, Alex endured what could only be described as cultural boot camp. Trelk drilled him relentlessly, pointing out every mistake with exaggerated sighs. When Alex accidentally used the wrong tone while practicing a formal greeting, Trelk threw up his spindly arms in exasperation. "No, no, no. That intonation implies disrespect. You'd insult an entire clan with that kind of phrasing." "I'm trying." Alex shot back, frustration bubbling over. "But none of this makes sense to me." Zalora intervened before things escalated further. She stepped between them, her calming presence diffusing the tension. "Perhaps we should take a break," she suggested diplomatically. "Mr. Carter, let's focus on something simpler. Tell me, what do you know about our bioluminescence?" Caught off guard by the question, Alex shrugged. "Oh, it's pretty." To his surprise, Zalora laughed softly. The sound was melodic, like wind chimes swaying in a gentle breeze. "That's true, but it serves more than aesthetic purposes. Our glowing patterns convey emotions, intentions, and sometimes even warnings. For example," she paused, and her skin shifted to a warm golden hue. "This indicates happiness or approval." Alex leaned forward, intrigued despite himself. "So, it's like body language." "Exactly," Zalora replied. "And understanding these cues will help you navigate conversations more effectively. If someone's glow turns red, for instance, it means they're angry or uncomfortable." Over the course of the day, Alex learned to recognize basic color shifts and their meanings. He also practiced traditional dances performed during luminary ceremonies, though his clumsy attempts sent Trelk into fits of muttered complaints. At one point, Alex tripped over his own feet and nearly knocked over a delicate vase, prompting Zalora to stifle a laugh behind her hand. Despite the challenges, Alex found himself growing more comfortable around Zalora. She had a way of making the impossible seem achievable, her patience unwavering even when he made mistakes. And though Trelk remained perpetually grumpy, there were moments when Alex caught the assistant rolling his eyes with a hint of reluctant amusement. As evening approached, Zalora dismissed Trelk and offered Alex a cup of steaming liquid that smelled faintly of citrus. "How are you feeling?" she asked, her glowing skin now a soft lavender, apparently a sign of concern. Honestly, Alex admitted, taking a cautious sip of the drink, I feel like I'm drowning. Your culture is intense. It is, as Alora acknowledged. But you're doing better than I expected. Most humans would have given up by now. Her words surprised him. Was she complimenting him? Before he could respond, she continued, There's still much to learn. But remember, you're not alone in this. I chose you for a reason, Alex. Trust yourself. For the first time since agreeing to the arrangement, Alex felt a flicker of confidence. Maybe he could pull this off after all. Still, he couldn't shake the nagging question in the back of his mind. Why had Zalora chosen him specifically? What was she hiding beneath her composed exterior? As he left the apartment later that night, clutching the datapad tightly, Alex realized that pretending to be Zalora's husband wasn't just about learning rituals or mastering dance moves. It was about stepping into a world far beyond his own and discovering parts of himself he hadn't known existed. Little did he know, the real test was yet to come. The day of the gala arrived faster than Alex had anticipated. Despite days of rigorous training, he still felt woefully unprepared. As he stood in front of the mirror in his rented formal attire, a sleek black suit with subtle holographic accents, he couldn't help but wonder if he looked convincing enough to pass as Zalora's husband. His reflection stared back at him, wide-eyed and uncertain. A soft chime signaled the arrival of Zalora's private transport pod outside his modest apartment. Taking a deep breath, Alex grabbed the small gift box containing a traditional luminary token of appreciation, a symbolic gesture Trelk had insisted was mandatory for such events, and stepped out into the bustling streets of Xyloth Prime. When he entered the pod, Zalora greeted him with a warm smile. Her appearance took his breath away. She wore an iridescent gown that seemed to shift colors with every movement, complementing her glowing skin perfectly. Her bioluminescence radiated a serene blue-green hue, calmness mixed with pride. You look nervous, she observed gently. I am, Alex admitted, fidgeting with the collar of his suit. What if I mess up? What if someone sees through us? Zalora placed a reassuring hand on his arm. You'll be fine. Just follow my lead and remember what we practiced. No one will suspect anything. The journey to the orbital station, where the gala was being held, was brief but breathtaking. The pod ascended smoothly through the atmosphere until they reached the glittering structure suspended among the stars. From the windows, Alex could see Earth hanging like a distant marble against the vast expanse of space. It was both beautiful and humbling. Inside the station, the event hall was a marvel of engineering and design. Crystal chandeliers floated weightlessly above a sea of guests, casting prismatic light across the room. Beings from countless species mingled, their conversations blending into a symphony of languages and tones. Servers glided between clusters of attendees, offering trays of exotic delicacies and shimmering beverages. As soon as they entered, all eyes turned toward them. Zalora moved with effortless grace, her presence commanding attention without seeming arrogant. Alex did his best to match her poise, though his heart pounded wildly beneath his ribcage. They were immediately approached by several prominent figures, eager to greet the enigmatic entrepreneur and her mysterious human companion. Ah, Zalora, exclaimed a tall insectoid alien with metallic wings. And this must be your esteemed husband. A pleasure to meet you. Alex extended his hand hesitantly, remembering at the last moment to bow slightly while touching his palm to his chest, the proper greeting for someone of high status. To his relief, the gesture earned him an approving nod. The pleasure is mine, Alex replied, using one of the phrases Trelk had drilled into him. He glanced at Zalora, who gave him an almost imperceptible smile of encouragement. Throughout the evening, Alex found himself navigating a delicate dance of conversation and protocol. Each interaction required careful attention to detail, maintaining eye contact, or equivalent focal points for non-human species, avoiding taboo topics, and ensuring his body language conveyed respect. At times, it felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of uncertainty. Despite the pressure, there were moments of genuine connection. During a brief lull in the crowd, Zalora introduced Alex to a group of young luminary activists working to improve interstellar relations. Their enthusiasm was infectious, and Alex found himself drawn into their discussion about shared resources and cultural exchange. For the first time since agreeing to the charade, he began to see why Zalora cared so deeply about bridging divides between species. However, not everything went smoothly. Midway through the gala, Alex overheard fragments of a whispered conversation between two elegantly dressed luminary elders nearby. Words like alliance and arranged union caught his ear, sending a chill down his spine. When he turned to ask Zalora about it, she quickly steered him toward another group of guests, her glowing skin flickering faintly orange, a sign of unease. Later, during a ceremonial toast led by the host, Alex noticed a pair of piercing eyes watching them intently from across the room. The observer was a stern-looking luminary male with sharp features and cold, calculating demeanor. Something about him made Alex's instincts scream danger. "What's wrong?" Zalora asked quietly, noticing Alex's tension. "That guy over there," Alex murmured under his breath. "He keeps staring at us." Zalora followed his gaze and stiffened slightly. "That's Counselor Vorthen. He's influential and not particularly fond of outsiders." Alex swallowed hard. If even half of what he'd heard about Vorthen was true, they were treading dangerous waters. But before he could dwell further on the implications, Zalora linked her arm with his, drawing him closer. "Let's focus on enjoying ourselves," she said softly, her glow shifting back to calming blue. "We've done well tonight." Though Alex nodded in agreement, the encounter left him uneasy. As the night wore on, and the festivities continued, he couldn't shake the feeling that their secret facade might already be cracking, and that powerful forces were waiting to exploit any weakness they could find. By the time they returned to the transport pod, exhaustion weighed heavily on Alex's shoulders. Yet despite the challenges and lingering fears, he couldn't deny the thrill of stepping into a world far grander than his own. For better or worse, he was beginning to understand why Zalora had chosen him, and why she trusted him to play such a crucial role in her life. Little did he know, the real test of their partnership was only beginning. The days following the gala were a blur of activity for Alex. He spent hours rehearsing protocols and refining his understanding of luminary customs under Truck's relentless supervision, but his mind kept drifting back to the unsettling encounter with Counselor Vorthen. Something about the man's icy gaze lingered in Alex's thoughts, gnawing at him like an unanswered question. One evening, after another grueling training session, Alex finally decided he'd had enough. As they prepared to leave Zalora's apartment, he turned to her with determination etched on his face. "Zalora," he began, his tone firmer than usual, "I need to know why you really hired me." She paused, her glowing skin flickering faintly, a mix of surprise and apprehension. For a moment, she said nothing, her large eyes searching his expression, as if weighing how much to reveal. Then, with a quiet sigh, she gestured for him to sit. "It's time you knew the truth," she admitted, her voice softer now, tinged with vulnerability. "But first, promise me you won't judge me too harshly." Alex nodded, curiosity and concern swirling inside him. Whatever she was about to say clearly weighed heavily on her. "My family," Zalora explained, "has arranged a marriage alliance between our clan and another powerful luminary house, the Vorthens. It's meant to secure resources for our dying homeworld, which is suffering from ecological collapse. Without these resources, millions will suffer, and my people may not survive." Alex frowned, piecing together what she wasn't saying outright. "So, you don't want this marriage?" Her bioluminescence shifted to a deep indigo, a sign of inner conflict. "It's not just that I don't want it. I believe there's another way, a better way, to save our world. But tradition demands compliance, and defiance would destabilize fragile peace treaties. If word got out that I'm resisting the arrangement, she trailed off, letting the implications hang in the air. Realization dawned on Alex. That's why you hired me, to buy yourself some time. Yes, Zalora confirmed. By presenting you as my husband, I hoped to delay the inevitable while I searched for alternatives. But now, her voice faltered slightly. Now I fear my efforts may have drawn unwanted attention. Counselor Vorthen suspects something isn't right, and if he uncovers the truth... Alex felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just about pretending to be married anymore. It was about survival. Hers and possibly countless others. He couldn't imagine the pressure she must be under, balancing duty, family expectations, and her own convictions. I'm sorry, Alex said sincerely. I didn't realize how complicated this was for you. Zalora gave him a small, grateful smile. You've done more than I could have asked for. Even knowing the risks, you've stayed committed to helping me. That means everything. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of her confession settled over them, transforming their partnership into something deeper. No longer was Alex merely playing a role. He was part of something far bigger, something that mattered. We can't let them win, Alex said suddenly, his resolve hardening. There has to be a way to expose the corruption behind these alliances. Maybe we can rally support from those who feel the same way you do about change. Zalora looked at him, her glowing skin shifting to a hopeful green. You're willing to help me fight this. I wouldn't have stuck around this long if I wasn't. Alex replied with a wry grin. Besides, I think I've earned the right to call myself your partner. For real this time. Together, they began devising a plan. Zalora shared information about influential figures within the luminary elite who might sympathize with her cause, including members of activist groups and forward-thinking diplomats. They also discussed leveraging evidence of resource hoarding and exploitation by clans like the Vorthens, information Zalora had been gathering secretly for months. Trelk, overhearing fragments of their conversation, appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. This is madness, he muttered, shaking his head. Do you two even realize what you're risking? If you fail, it won't just be your lives on the line. It'll be everyone's. We know the stakes, Zalora said firmly. But staying silent isn't an option anymore. We have to try. To Alex's surprise, Trelk hesitated before nodding reluctantly. Fine. But if you're going to do this, you'll need all the help you can get. Count me in. With Trelk's reluctant support secured, the trio threw themselves into preparations. Alex dove into research, learning everything he could about luminary politics and economics. Zalora reached out discreetly to potential allies, testing the waters carefully to avoid suspicion. Meanwhile, Trelk used his extensive network of contacts to gather intelligence on the Vorthens' operations. As they worked side by side, Alex found himself growing closer to Zalora, not just as partners in deception, but as friends united by a shared purpose. Their interactions became less formal, more natural. There were moments of laughter amidst the tension, fleeting glimpses of joy that reminded them both why they were fighting so hard. Still, danger loomed ever present. During one late-night meeting in a secluded cafe, Alex noticed a shadowy figure lingering outside the window. When he pointed it out to Zalora, her glow turned a nervous orange. We're being watched, she whispered. We need to move quickly. Despite the mounting risks, Alex refused to back down. He'd come too far to give up now. And though the road ahead promised peril, he felt a strange sense of hope, a belief that together they could spark meaningful change. Little did they know, their actions would soon ignite a chain reaction that would shake the foundations of luminary society and force them to confront truths neither of them could have anticipated. As the days turned into weeks, Alex and Zalora's partnership evolved in ways neither of them had anticipated. What began as a transactional arrangement, a human courier pretending to be the spouse of an alien entrepreneur, had grown into something far more profound. Their shared mission to challenge the oppressive traditions of the luminary elite brought them closer than either had imagined possible. Each new discovery about the Vorthens' corruption deepened their resolve. Through late-night strategy sessions and covert meetings with sympathetic allies, they uncovered evidence of resource hoarding on a scale that shocked even Zalora. Entire planets were being stripped bare to fuel the lavish lifestyles of a select few clans, while millions suffered under the weight of ecological collapse. The injustice burned within Alex, fueling his determination to help Zalora expose the truth. But it wasn't just the cause that bound them together. It was the moments between the chaos. During breaks from their intense work, Alex found himself drawn to Zalora's quiet strength and unwavering optimism. She, in turn, admired his courage and adaptability, qualities she hadn't expected to find in someone so different from her own kind. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of deciphering ancient luminary texts for clues about sustainable energy solutions, Alex collapsed onto a plush couch in Zalora's apartment. Trelk had already retired for the night, leaving the two of them alone in the softly lit room. "You're doing great," Zalora said, handing him a steaming cup of herbal tea. Her glowing skin shimmered faintly green, a sign of calm contentment. "I couldn't have asked for a better partner." Alex chuckled nervously, taking the cup. "Partner? I thought I was just your fake husband." Her expression softened, and she tilted her head slightly. "Maybe fake isn't the right word anymore. You've become so much more than that. To me, at least." The sincerity in her voice caught him off guard. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. They sat in comfortable silence, the hum of the city outside fading into the background. Their bond continued to strengthen as they ventured deeper into dangerous territory. One night, they met with a group of rebel scientists who claimed to possess data proving the Vorthens' exploitation extended beyond planetary resources. They were also manipulating genetic codes to create subservient worker species. It was horrifying, but it gave Alex and Zalora leverage they desperately needed. During one such meeting, held in the shadowy recesses of an abandoned observatory, Alex noticed Zalora tense beside him. A trio of hooded figures approached cautiously, their faces obscured by masks. One stepped forward, revealing luminous purple eyes that marked them as members of a marginalized luminary clan. "We've heard whispers of your plans," the figure rasped. "If you're serious about overthrowing the old order, we want in." Zalora exchanged a glance with Alex before nodding slowly. "We can't promise safety, but we can promise change. Are you ready for that?" The figure nodded sharply. "Change is worth any risk." Back at the Luxor Spire, Alex reflected on the growing network of allies they'd assembled. From activists to rogue scientists, each individual brought unique skills and perspectives to the table. Together, they formed a mosaic of hope, a collective effort to dismantle centuries of oppression. Yet, not all progress came easily. On one occasion, Alex accidentally offended a high-ranking diplomat during a formal dinner by using an outdated honorific. The blunder could have cost them valuable support, but Zalora skillfully diffused the situation with her characteristic grace. Later, when they were alone, she teased him gently about the incident. "You'll never live this down, will you?" she said, her glow shifting to a playful pink. "Hey, I'm still learning." Alex protested, though he couldn't suppress a grin. "Besides, you saved me." Again. Her laughter filled the room, light and melodic. "That's what partners do, isn't it?" Moments like these reminded Alex why he'd chosen to stay involved, despite the risks. He no longer saw himself as merely an actor playing a role. He was part of something transformative, something meaningful. And through it all, his admiration for Zalora only grew stronger. Still, danger lurked around every corner. Councillor Vorthen had begun tightening his grip on dissenters, silencing critics with threats and intimidation. Rumors spread of spies infiltrating resistance groups, sowing mistrust among potential allies. Every step forward felt like walking a tightrope over a chasm of uncertainty. One night, as Alex reviewed encrypted files detailing Vorthen's financial dealings, Zalora joined him at the desk. Her presence was grounding, a reminder that they weren't facing this battle alone. "We're running out of time," she murmured, her glow flickering faintly orange. "Vorthen knows we're onto him. If we don't act soon." "We will," Alex interrupted firmly, placing a hand over hers. "Together, we'll make sure the truth comes out." Her gaze met his, and for a moment, the world seemed to pause. In that fleeting instant, Alex realized he cared for Zalora more deeply than he'd allowed himself to admit. Whether it was love or something else entirely, he couldn't say. But it didn't matter. What mattered was the connection they shared, forged in the crucible of adversity. With renewed determination, they redoubled their efforts. Using the evidence they'd gathered, they crafted a presentation designed to sway public opinion and rally support from undecided factions. It was risky, exposing themselves so openly, but they knew there was no other way. As the final pieces fell into place, Alex felt a surge of hope unlike anything he'd experienced before. No matter what happened next, he knew they'd sparked something powerful, a movement that would echo across galaxies long after their names were forgotten. Little did they know, betrayal awaited them in the shadows, threatening to unravel everything they'd worked so hard to build. But even then, their bond would prove stronger than fear, leading them toward a future neither could have foreseen. The morning of their planned expose dawned bright and clear, though tension hung heavy in the air. Alex awoke early, his mind racing with thoughts of what lay ahead. After weeks of preparation, they were finally ready to present their evidence to the Galactic Council, a coalition of influential leaders from across species and worlds. If successful, their presentation could dismantle the Vorthen's stranglehold on resources and force sweeping reforms within luminary society. But if it failed, he shook off the thought as he dressed in the formal attire Zalora had provided for the occasion. The sleek black suit shimmered faintly under the light, its holographic accents giving him an almost regal appearance. Despite the polished exterior, however, Alex felt anything but confident. His stomach churned with unease, a gnawing sense that something was about to go horribly wrong. When he arrived at Zalora's apartment, she greeted him with a warm smile, though her glowing skin betrayed hints of anxiety. Her bioluminescence fluctuated between soft lavender and pale orange, a mix of reassurance and worry. Trelk bustled around them, double-checking data files and ensuring their presentation equipment was functioning perfectly. "Are you sure we can trust everyone involved?" Alex asked cautiously, voicing the question that had been haunting him since the previous night. Zalora hesitated before responding. "We've vetted everyone as thoroughly as possible, but there's always a risk. Trust is a luxury we can't afford right now." Her words did little to ease Alex's nerves. Still, they pressed on, boarding the private transport pod bound for the Grand Council chambers located aboard a massive orbital station known as Ecliptica Prime. The journey was silent save for the hum of engines and the occasional rustle of fabric as Zalora adjusted her flowing gown, a radiant masterpiece of silver threads interwoven with tiny gemstones that caught the light like stars. As they entered the chamber, Alex marveled at the sheer scale of the room. Dozens of representatives sat in tiered seating, their forms ranging from humanoid to bizarrely alien. Holographic displays hovered above each delegate station, displaying real-time translations of proceedings into countless languages. At the center of the room stood a raised platform where Zalora and Alex would deliver their case. They took their positions, exchanging one last glance before beginning. Zalora opened with a stirring speech about unity and justice, her voice resonating through the chamber with practiced eloquence. As she spoke, Alex activated the holographic projections, showcasing damning evidence of the Vorthen's corruption, financial records, resource depletion maps, and testimonies from oppressed clans. For a moment, it seemed as though their plan might succeed. Murmurs rippled through the audience, some delegates nodding in agreement while others exchanged concerned looks. Then, without warning, chaos erupted. A shrill alarm blared throughout the chamber, followed by flashing red lights. Security drones descended from the ceiling, surrounding the platform. Counselor Vorthen himself strode forward, his metallic wings glinting menacingly under the harsh illumination. Beside him stood someone Alex recognized instantly, Kellis, one of the rebel scientists who had promised support just days earlier. "You didn't think we'd let this happen, did you?" Vorthen sneered, his cold gaze fixed on Zalora. "Your little rebellion ends here." Alex's heart sank as realization hit him. They'd been betrayed. Kellis must have leaked their plans to Vorthen in exchange for leniency, or worse, power. Panic surged through the crowd as guards moved to detain Zalora and Alex. "No!" Zalora shouted, stepping protectively in front of Alex. Her glow flared brightly, a defiant shade of fiery crimson. "You can't silence the truth forever." Vorthen smirked, raising a hand to signal his forces. Before they could act, however, Trelk appeared seemingly out of nowhere, brandishing a small device. With a swift motion, he activated it, enveloping the platform in a shimmering energy field that temporarily blocked the guards' advance. "Go!" Trelk barked, shoving Alex and Zalora toward a hidden exit behind the podium. "I'll hold them off." But Zalora started to protest, but Trelk cut her off with a rare display of emotion. "I owe you this much," he said gruffly, his reflective scales glinting in the dim light. "Now run." Without another word, Alex grabbed Zalora's hand and pulled her through the doorway, leaving Trelk behind to face the onslaught alone. Guilt weighed heavily on both of them as they fled down a narrow corridor, footsteps echoing against metal walls. "We need to find somewhere safe," Alex panted, his mind racing. "Somewhere they won't look." "There's only one place," Zalora replied grimly. "The old archives beneath the station. Few people even know they exist." They navigated the labyrinthine passages with urgency, every sound making them flinch in fear. When they finally reached the hidden entrance to the archives, Zalora tapped a sequence into a keypad embedded in the wall. A section of the floor slid open, revealing a dark staircase leading downward. Inside, the archives were eerily quiet, rows upon rows of ancient holocrons and dusty datapads lining the shelves. Alex helped Zalora barricade the door before collapsing onto a nearby bench, exhaustion overtaking him. "We're running out of options," he admitted, frustration creeping into his voice. "What do we do now?" Zalora knelt beside him, her glow shifting to a soothing blue-green. "We survive," she said firmly. "And when the time is right, we strike back. Together." Though defeat loomed large, Alex found solace in her determination. Whatever came next, he knew they wouldn't face it alone. Their bond, forged not just in shared struggle, but in mutual trust, had become unbreakable. Little did they know, outside the confines of the archive, events were unfolding that would soon thrust them back into the spotlight and test their resolve like never before. Trapped in the dimly lit archives beneath Ecliptica Prime, Alex and Zalora worked tirelessly to regroup. The weight of their predicament pressed down on them, but neither allowed despair to take hold. Instead, they channeled their energy into planning, analyzing every piece of evidence they'd brought with them, and strategizing how to expose the truth without falling victim to Vorthen's reach again. As hours turned into days, Zalora used her knowledge of luminary history to uncover forgotten precedents within the archives. She discovered ancient treaties and declarations that emphasized cooperation over exploitation, ideals long buried by greed and tradition. These documents could serve as a foundation for their argument, legitimizing their cause in the eyes of those still undecided. Meanwhile, Alex focused on finding allies who hadn't been compromised. Using encrypted channels, he reached out to trusted contacts among the activists and rebels they'd worked with before. To his relief, many responded eagerly, rallying behind Zalora's vision of reform. Among them was Kellis, the same scientist who had betrayed them, but now filled with remorse after realizing Vorthen intended to use him as a pawn rather than reward him. "I made a mistake," Kalis confessed during a clandestine meeting arranged by Alex. "But I want to make it right. Let me help you." Though wary, Alex relayed the message to Zalora, who agreed to give Kalis a chance. Together, the trio devised a daring plan to broadcast their findings directly to the public, bypassing the council entirely. They would hijack the station's communication network during a live interstellar address, a move so bold it left even Trelk speechless when he eventually rejoined them, battered but alive. "Are you too insane?" Trelk muttered, shaking his head as they outlined the scheme. "This is suicide." "It's our only shot," Alex countered firmly. "If we can show everyone what's really happening, no amount of spin from Vorthen can cover it up." On the day of the address, tension crackled in the air like static electricity. Disguised as maintenance workers, Alex and Zalora infiltrated the control room overseeing the broadcast, while Kalis coordinated distractions elsewhere on the station. Their hearts pounded as they waited for the signal, a brief power surge engineered by one of their allies to disable security systems temporarily. When the moment came, Alex moved swiftly, overriding the feed with practiced precision. Within seconds, images of resource-depleted planets, starving populations, and damning financial records flooded screens across the galaxy. Accompanying the visuals was Zalora's voice, calm yet impassioned, explaining the truth about the Vorthen's corruption and calling for unity in creating a better future. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Across star systems, protests erupted, demanding accountability and change. Even some members of the Galactic Council broke ranks, denouncing Vorthen and supporting Zalora's call for reform. For the first time in centuries, the luminary elite found themselves facing not just opposition, but an unstoppable tide of collective will. Back aboard Ecliptica Prime, chaos reigned as Vorthen scrambled to regain control. But it was too late. The damage had been done. When guards finally breached the control room, they found Alex and Zalora standing side by side, unafraid despite the weapons trained on them. "You've lost," Zalora declared, her glow radiant and unwavering. "Your lies have been exposed, and your power is crumbling." Vorthen stormed in moments later, livid with rage. Yet even he couldn't deny the shift in momentum. With mounting pressure from both within and outside the council, he was forced to step down, his reign of manipulation ending in disgrace. In the weeks that followed, sweeping changes swept through luminary society. Resources were redistributed more equitably, and efforts began to restore the devastated homeworlds. Zalora emerged as a symbol of hope, her courage inspiring others to challenge outdated traditions and embrace collaboration. For Alex, the experience transformed him in ways he never imagined. What had started as a desperate attempt to earn credits became a journey of self-discovery and purpose. He realized he no longer belonged solely to Earth or humanity. He was part of something greater, a citizen of the stars. One evening, as they stood together on a balcony overlooking Sci-Fi Prime, Zalora turned to him with a soft smile. "You don't have to stay, you know. You've done more than anyone could ask." Alex shook his head, taking her hand in his. "I'm not going anywhere. Not unless you're coming with me." Her glowing skin shifted to a warm pink, signaling happiness mixed with affection. "Then perhaps we should see where this takes us." Together, they decided to leave behind the politics and pressures of Sci-Fi Prime, embarking on a journey to explore new worlds and continue advocating for peace and progress. As their transport pod ascended into the sky, Alex felt a profound sense of fulfillment. He wasn't just pretending anymore. He was living a life full of meaning, alongside someone who had become his true partner.